All right, we're live.
All right, awesome. Hello, everyone. It is Julie. I'm here with Richard Allen for our Friday market recap, doing our very first live stream where we'll be chatting about all the exciting things that have happened in the stock market this week. Excited to have you here, Richard, and excited to be live. Hope we get some people joining us, get some good comments and discussions flowing here.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, we've got lots to talk about. We're talking about space and Bitcoin and Robinhood, and they're IPOing while they're being sued. It's a lot of craziness going on this week. So glad you
Yeah,
guys are here to join us.
definitely. Right out the gate, I think the biggest news today is space. Virgin Galactic, right? We're finally seeing somebody, not just somebody, Richard Branson, going up.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to beat you by a week, Jeff." It's
I know. I
hilarious.
love the billionaire space race is on, right? So it used to be Soviet Union and America. Now it's the billionaires that are fighting out to be in space first.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's hilarious, but it is sending ticker symbol SPCE to the moon today. They're back up to where they were after falling quite a bit because they ran up what 50% or something crazy like that, and they
Yeah, that
dropped
was
a
just
lot from
last
there.
week.
So
Yeah, and they've kind of cooled down a bit today as well, it seems. And I did see someone comment on a video earlier about it's something about like the level of space that they're entering so that they won't pass the Kármán line. So it's like a different experience. So I think they're just trying to, Bezos' team acting a little less hurt that they're not going to be the first ones, being like, oh, it's not quite the same. But still, 9 days before him, I think that's a little rubbing it in a little bit.
that's funny. Jeff's like, "You're not going far enough, buddy."
Yeah, exactly. But no,
Hey,
it sounds
Jason.
pretty
Happy
cool.
afternoon. I'm adding some comments here to the screen. Yeah,
Yeah.
guys, we're gonna do questions. We're gonna go on until about noon. We're gonna do questions. So any questions you guys have for us the last 5 minutes, we'll do that. Maybe a little longer depending on how long it takes us to get through the news here. Guy, if you have anything to say about space, besides, I'm hearing a lot of comments like, "I hope Jeff and Richard don't come back to Earth." Don't say that. That's rude.
No.
But let us know how you guys feel about the billionaires race into space and Elon not taking part in it because he could have gone up probably a ton of times. So
I know it's kind of interesting that he hasn't chosen to jump on one of these spaceships going out there. I mean, I feel like that's something that he'd probably be very interested in. And it's obviously an area that his company is developing, like has a lot of energy going towards. So surprising that he's not wanting to get up there as well.
yeah, I think he's more focused on colonizing Mars. Probably, I think that's what's going on in his
There.
brain. And
He's saving
and
his first trip for Mars then, hey.
Probably, probably. Even though he says, "Look, you're probably not going to come back from Mars. The first few people to go, you're probably not coming back." So he's kind of set a bit of an ominous tone for going to
Sure.
Mars and colonizing Mars. But we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see.
Yeah, but crazy jump up. I think they were up 30% at one point this morning. Now they've kind of come back down a long ways. So it's interesting that the hype and excitement of this didn't carry over longer, honestly. We had the good news last week of their FAA approval.
Hmm.
Now, this news, and I understand that Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin doesn't have that FAA approval yet. And their flight's supposed to be on the 20th, I think. So just interesting if that'll just be Bezos. Like that must be coming soon, right? I don't understand how you could do it without that approval.
Yeah. So I think the difference was that Virgin Galactic has approval to bring just normal consumers up. I don't know if that's different than what Blue Origin is doing or not, but
Yeah. Anyway, interesting space race happening, getting pretty exciting. Jason,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, and hello to Richard. And a rich
Elon
person's
is
game for sure.
yeah. Richard says Elon is waiting for Mars, not a joyride. That's a good point.
Got some affairs to get in order here before a one-way trip to Mars, I guess, right?
Yep. All right. What's next on the docket? We have Bitcoin, right?
So they have, I mean, they're down a little bit this week, but I think
Hmm.
they've had things kind of pulling from both ends as far as positive and negative news. We started off the week hearing that Binance, a major crypto platform, was banned in the UK. But then we also have a Mexican billionaire saying that he is working to have his bank and country accept cryptocurrency as a regular currency. So we have positive news on that side. So it was kind of a tug of war on Bitcoin this week. But I mean, that's nothing new, right? These companies, and well, not just companies, but countries too, are trying to figure out how to regulate it. And the whole thing is that it's not supposed to be regulated. So we're kind of at that weird teetering point, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's still, there's still so much volatility. It's like 4 to 8% per day, up or down, either way. So I know a lot of people are trading these cryptocurrencies, but it isn't quite to the point where people are just hanging on long term. Besides a few companies.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Another interesting article I saw is that a Bitcoin billionaire passed away, and they think he held about $2 billion in Bitcoin. And now they're not quite sure what's going to happen with that. Like, if it's going to be traceable, if anyone has access to it. So that could kind of disappear, if you will, which is an interesting thing to consider as crypto is becoming a more commonly held thing in everyone's portfolios.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. I know there's a lot of things in place with banks and stuff like that, with regulations when people die, but that just isn't the case with Bitcoin. So you have to entrust people with your private keys or passwords or whatever, and that's a lot of money to go missing for a family or for a person. So that's crazy.
Yeah. We have greetings from Prague. Oh my goodness, we're worldwide viewers here, Richard.
Nice. That is awesome. I read that. I didn't read that as you got this. I read that as yogurt, and I'm like, yogurt? Why? I gotta eat some breakfast here.
Yeah.
And then David says, funny Bob and cat guy to the nice new gig. Props. Thank you, David. Used to have the funny cat at the end of my videos. I don't do that anymore.
I used to always have Bear at the end of mine. And now he's like always in a bed beside me here, but he's not in camera shot. But I promise he's never actually far.
Just hanging out.
Richard just asked, did those cryptos go back into the mining? And so I think that's still kind of undetermined. I read one article and they said in this instance that Bitcoin kind of disappearing just makes the other Bitcoins worth more. I don't know if it goes back into mining or if it's just kind of lost. And I think that's kind of the mystery here. And we're dealing with $2 billion worth. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure on a smaller scale, this has happened before. It just hasn't gotten much attention. And now at this large size, it's, catching a lot more notice that what is going to happen with this. So I'm not sure. From what I've read, it seems like it's still very much up in the air. But yeah, we'd love to find out what on earth is going to happen with that.
I think it's pretty much lost. Just imagine like somebody stashing money underneath their bed, and and somebody throws the bed in the landfill. That's kind of the same thing happening here, unless somehow they're able to recover the private keys. So
yeah, and when we talk about regulation too, like we have these crypto platforms that are being banned in some countries because they don't have those regulations. So it can't be tracked like you said normal assets could. So it's kind of the double-edged sword there where it's not supposed to be regulated, but because of that, you can lose $2 billion of it. Gone to the wind.
Crazy. Yeah. David's saying the SPY has taken off a little bit, which is cool to see. I think part of that is the better than expected jobs report. The economy added 850,000 jobs this past quarter or month, sorry, and which was really, really good to see. So I think that's why you see some really big tech companies taking off. You see some recovery stocks taking off today as well. It was way, way better than expected. Even ADP's estimate of under 700,000, it beat that by quite a bit as well, which was really nice.
Yeah, and I think it's just helping give people that confidence again in this recovery. And a lot of those jobs, if I'm not mistaken, were in the service and hospitality industry. And of course, one of the biggest things starting to open up again is restaurants and people being able to go out. So it's no surprise that that's where we're seeing a lot of jobs coming back to, and just positive news all around for the economy, right? We've been in an interesting recovery period. We have some of these variants kind of trying to scare us a bit more. Some issues there where it's not going away as smoothly as we'd like, but things are still reopening and still recovering. So
Yeah, you're hearing a lot about this Delta variant that originated in India, and
yeah,
Moderna actually came out this week and said, "Look, our vaccine works against these variants," which is a really good sign. And I think people are getting more and more excited to get out there and actually spend some money, and especially on stuff like going out to eat and going to the movies and all of those discretionary things that people
yeah,
weren't spending money on over the past year and a half. So.
those little joys of just getting to go out and eat somewhere instead of your own house, right? It's been
Yeah.
pent up for a while. Everyone wants to dine out now.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people are buying Teslas. Tesla just came out and said that they delivered over 200,000 vehicles for the first time in a quarter, last quarter, and that happening coupled with Ford's sales actually going down by 27% last month year over year. So there's this huge transition to EV right now, which I think is absolutely amazing.
Definitely. Yeah. It's interesting though, because Tesla stock didn't really react that much to this. I think
Nope.
it was kind of expected. They didn't blow those expectations out of the water. They just met them. And
Hmm.
moving forward, I think it's about 475,000 that they're going to need in the second half of this year. So we're going to need to see even bigger numbers moving forward. And I think people are kind of waiting to see what happens with that. So great news, obviously, just it's like, okay, cool. And everyone kind of moved on, right? We didn't see Tesla
Yep.
spike up very much today.
Yeah, and it's strangely usually the case for Tesla. They have blowout numbers or good numbers, or they meet expectations, and they just kind of
Yeah.
trade sideways. Yeah, yep.
North of the border, though, I did just read that Canada is going to be pushing towards a zero emission future pretty soon here. And by 2035, all new vehicles being sold will have to be zero emissions. So we're seeing that across the states here. Obviously, California was a big leader with that. And now we have entire countries making those same moves. So, yeah, I think Ford, once they really get more into the whole EV space, which we know they're making moves towards,
Hmm.
that's when we'll see their side kind of pick up. Them and GM, I think, are going to be big contenders in the EV space personally. I just think they have the infrastructure and capabilities once they really pivot towards that to be a strong competitor in that space. But obviously, 27% down now, they're not quite there yet, right?
No, and they'll get there with the new F-150 Lightning. And Jason just
Yeah.
says the thing about Ford is that I've heard that the new USPS truck will have Ford engines. That's pretty
So
cool. I
they're
didn't know
working
that at
with
all.
Oshkosh, right?
Yeah, it sounds like
I
it.
know that
Yeah.
they were kind of, I don't know, partnered up, but I know that they were working on that big bid together. So, yeah, undoubtedly Ford will have some pieces of that pie.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
David's
we have
asking if any is there any input on how the infrastructure bill or other catalyst may impact the market in July. Um, Personally, I don't know if it'll impact the market that quickly. We may have already seen the effects of that over the past week with both the S&P and the Nasdaq hitting all-time highs and the Dow continuing to rise or staying stable. I don't know if we'll see much of an impact until the money starts flowing in and we see where the money's going to be spent. Do you have any thoughts on that, Julie?
Yeah, I agree with you there, where just hearing that something's getting passed is great, gives us that confidence that things are actually working and deals are being made. But it's the government. It's going to take a while for us to actually see that flow out and get implemented and everything. More the catalysts I'm looking forward to. Come July 13th, I think we start seeing earnings go pretty crazy again. So it has been really quiet as far as earnings reports go lately. And July 13th, we start seeing a lot more big names come out, and that continues for a couple weeks after that. And so far, the reports we have been seeing, a lot of companies are coming out with strong results. So if we have these big names coming out and they continue that trend with some really positive quarterly results, I think that will just translate to the market overall with that confidence. So I'll be keeping an eye on that definitely in the second half and end of July.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's much more of a factor. You have Facebook just hitting 1 trillion this week. You have other companies that are close. I know Nvidia is doing a stock split and is inching up closer to 1 trillion. I think they're close to 800 billion right now. So that may be the next company to hit 1 trillion, and they're all in the tech space. So yeah, we have some big companies reporting earnings in
Yeah,
July.
a lot of the bank stocks too. And at the start of this week, I think is when we saw pretty much all of the large banks bump up their dividends after kicking that stress test butt from the feds
Hmm.
there. So that coupled with some earnings reports, I think we'll see a lot of strength in some of those companies. So excited to see how that moves.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Yeah, guys, if you want to start throwing some questions in there, let's do that. We got to talk about Robinhood. Obviously, they're in the news for a couple different reasons over the past couple days, and
Good
there's
and
been
bad.
good and bad. Yeah. So they're IPOing soon. So they released their S1, which was very telling. It was this huge document on their financials, and they've had a net quarterly loss of almost 1.5 billion last quarter,
Yeah.
which was for particular reasons, but they increased their marketing a ton. They started working with a lot of different creators and influencers and offering for free stocks and things like that. And they probably overspent a little bit, but that should pay some dividends in the future. They actually, during all of that GME and GameStop debacle in January, where they seem to be losing a ton of customers because of that promotion. They actually had a
Right.
net positive, a net gain of customers. So they seem to have timed that perfectly. Maybe they knew. No, they probably didn't. But they're also, for negative reasons, they're in the news as well, right, Julie?
Yeah, so those big fines that they're getting hit with. And I think you covered this earlier this week in a video, right? This
Hmm.
week has gone by fast. I think it was this
Yeah.
week, right, Richard?
Yeah,
Is it
absolutely.
$70 million that they're being fined?
Yeah.
So, a lot of negative news at the same time as this IPO. And this is going to be a very closely watched IPO because they've been flirting with this IPO for a bit now. And we did have a lot of that kerfuffle with trading being stopped amidst some of those Wall Street bets blow up stocks and
Hmm.
bad PR around that. But, things have calmed down. It seems that they're kind of making reparations for that. So, where exactly was that fine going? That's going to some people, but mostly just a fine, right?
Yeah, only 13 million of it is actually going to any sort of restitution for. I think it's like 3,500 people or something like that who were affected by different option spreads and different things like that. So it's really tied to very specific clients.
Yeah.
And there's awards ranging from in the single digits up to, I think, one customer's getting 150,000 back. So there's quite a bit of money in that, but most of it is going to FINRA and the FTC for just a fine. So
How does that sit with you?
it's kind of sad, honestly, because I think much more people than these 3,000 people were affected by this, whether they know it
Definitely.
or not, right? Not being able to get out positions and get out of positions, and it seems like people just trading the stock in a normal way aren't seeing any money from these fines at all.
Yeah. No, and I know there was a lot of upset with some of those trading halts and everything. And there was definitely people being affected and up in arms. And yeah, I would have to assume it was much more than those 3,500 people. And it's like you're getting fined all of this, and that's great. Some of it's going to the average trader, but I don't know. It's like, what's the rest of it's just going to go to the FINRA there? I don't know.
Yeah, and that, unfortunately, that's usually how it works. A company like Robinhood, they probably settled to have this fine only be 70 million, when
Sure.
in reality people probably lost a lot more than 70 million dollars. So it's kind of a strange scenario, honestly.
Yeah. Excited for their IPO, though. Beyond all that, I think it's going to be a very closely watched one with a lot of people excited about it. I did read that they were going to be allocating 20 to 35% of their IPO to retail investors instead of the usual 10. So I think that's also a big goodwill thing. They're all about that retail investor. So thought that was a neat feature, if you will, of their IPO.
Yeah, so that's something new to their platform, where they're allowing people to buy shares in an IPO before they actually debut. And if any of you have been paying attention to any of the IPOs recently, they run up, sometimes double,
Yeah.
triple what they were supposed to debut at before you're even allowed to trade or able to trade. Because right now, the IPOs are kind of based on this almost like an auction system. You put in your bid,
Mhm.
and it takes an average of all the bids, and that's where the price debuts. So in this case, I think last week or this week was Duolingo is IPOing. It's a language app and education app for kids and adults, and you're able to buy those shares beforehand, which is kind of cool. And I don't know how that will work with Robinhood. I've heard things like people are really excited to buy this or short it. So I don't know if Wall Street Bets is going to come in and attack Robinhood or what,
Oh
but
my
it
goodness.
could be interesting.
Wouldn't that be something?
Uh-huh.
But no, I love the idea of people being able to get in with the IPO because I feel like a lot of us smaller retail investors, you feel like at such a disadvantage because you can be watching that IPO and right out the gate, we've seen huge IPOs this year. I mean, Snowflake, I think, was one of the biggest where it just shot up to crazy prices compared to what it said it was supposed to be. So anyone watching it, you feel like, well, it's already gone. Like I didn't even have the chance. So I do love that they're kind of opening that up to be a little bit more fair, if you will.
And that's kind of the initial goal of Robinhood is to
Yeah.
democratize finance, right? So I hope it works out. Hopefully they get more IPOs that will do something like this. I know Weeble's been doing it for a while, but it doesn't seem to be any of the big IPOs. I don't see Airbnb or DoorDash or some of these others that went crazy day one. But it would be nice to be able to take advantage of some of those big swings.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into. We have a few questions. I think we're done with the news, right, Julie?
I think those were our main topics we want to cover. So let's see what people are talking about.
Yeah. So we have Sean Jones asking about our thoughts on Ride. We've both talked about rides in Lordstown Motors recently. They're actually down almost 10% today. I didn't see any more news, so I assume this is just normal price action. But they're down over the past month, like what, 30% or something? It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's, unfortunately, they've lost a lot of wind in their sail, I think. And I haven't
Hmm.
seen any news really this week. I'm just trying to look now. I do see that, oh, plunges on report of a DOJ investigation. So we did know that that was going on. So I obviously won't start reading it right now, but they've had a lot of bad news lately, right? Like their comments about not necessarily having enough funding. Then they had their CEO and CFO, I think, both stepped down. So just a lot of hurdles. And it seems like if they keep getting more bad news, it's just going to keep pushing that stock down and down. And especially with Workhorse not getting the USPS contract, like they've just had a lot of blows lately. So it's unfortunate because there was a lot of excitement surrounding them, but it's been a tough couple months.
So much bad news for them, yeah. And I
I know.
don't I don't see them recovering anytime soon. Honestly, I think it's going to
Yeah.
be a major uphill battle. They've had some major management changes and things like that, like we've talked about. So yeah, it's going to be a tough uphill climb for sure.
Yeah, would love to see him turn it around, but like you said, I think it'll take a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason's asking about GALT. I have them pulled up on TipRanks right now. They are trading at 309 per share. However, there's one analyst rating. It is from a couple months ago, Jason, so I don't know. I'm not familiar with this company or why, but they have a price target of $14 from a five-star analyst with an upside of 353%.
That's attractive
So
upside.
absolutely. And I know when I was doing the Power Hour update the other day, we had every single top winner in the market, top gainer in the market was a therapeutics company. So that's how it works with therapeutics companies and biotech
Yes.
companies. If they have one bit of good news, it could be something that is revolutionary and changes the world. And all of a sudden they're up 1,000%. It's just bonkers how quickly they can move.
On the flip side, though, they're often on the biggest losers list as well. And that's
Hmm.
just the nature of those therapeutic companies, right? Like and penny stocks in general, basically any stock under $5. Great news, it's going to send them soaring. Any bad news is going to send them right back down. They're so sensitive to it. But looking at Galactin, it does look like they have a couple, they're working on like NASH cirrhosis, and I think it's a different cancer treatments. It looks like they have a couple in phase 3 trials. So the big thing with these stocks is knowing when those catalysts are going to happen, because these price targets are over the next year. So it could be 9 months till we have a data readout from any of those trials. So, you're hanging on through a lot of volatility throughout that period. So I always just say, understand those risks, understand what catalyst you're waiting for, because, $14 could be a long way out. And anytime you have one analyst rating, you have to do even more due diligence around that, right? You don't have that consensus of several analysts. You're really trusting this one guy's opinion. So you need to make sure that you fully understand it and whether you agree with him or not, because he's got great ratings. But, nothing's ever guaranteed with these stocks. So
yeah, but even this analyst doesn't have 100% win rate, and none of them do. The best ones on out there in Wall Street have about 80%, which is amazing. But you take a company like Tesla, right? We've talked about Tesla and how there's a huge disparity in price targets. We have price targets from $70 to $1,000, right? Yeah. So very bearish, very bullish from good analysts. So it's when you, like you said, when you have just one analyst rating. All right, so number 2. We have SoFi. Somebody wants to talk about SoFi. SoFi is also down today, and then over the past month, they're down about 25%. They just went public via Chamath SPAC. So this was a big SPAC. They do have 2 analyst ratings with an average upside of almost 54%, which is nice.
Yeah, and the most recent one just from 5 days ago too, which is, I always like seeing those current ones, so that's like it's still relevant. I think there was so much hype around SPACs. And I think I saw another comment about SPACs in here too, just saying we went through that SPAC frenzy at the end of 2020. And, I think a lot of the market's attention shifted. We have a lot of focus on crypto. We had a couple months of some big corrections there. So a lot of that hype and excitement around SPACs has dialed back a bit. And with a lot of those SPACs, once they do go public, you just do see it kind of settle back down, because again, there's less of that buildup and everything. So I think SoFi will have a solid future. I think it's just kind of finding its groove now that it's kind of out there on its own and doesn't have that SPAC hype around it anymore.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I'm surprised, honestly, it didn't fall further. But it did. It ran up a ton. It ran up into the 20s really quickly. And dropped down to now it's 17 something a share. You're asking here on opinions of downside. I think it had a pretty high valuation. The valuation was close to $9 billion at that $10 mark for SoFi, and they were pretty high multiples. So in the short term, there could be quite a bit of downside. Because it was, like I said, a pretty high multiple at that $9 billion valuation. So there could be quite a bit of downside. David's asking, SPACs haven't received much attention yet. Any worthy SPAC news on the horizon? I know I was really excited about SRNG lately. That was the same group that did DraftKings and Skills. And they partnered with a company called Ginkgo Bioworks, which is essentially software for genetics. A really cool company. That's doing a ton of crazy stuff, and they're trading under $10 per share. There was never a big run up, so SPACs are being hit really hard right now.
Which could, if you're keeping your eye on them, you could find some really great opportunities then too, right? Because they aren't getting as much hype and attention. So if you can get into a SPAC below $10, I mean, that was unheard of last year. So that's impressive. I gotta say, I haven't noticed many other SPACs lately. I haven't been looking, to be honest. So
yeah, no, and I'm waiting for the craze to come back. Honestly, Sergeant Boss Hog says, "Hey everyone, what about CCIV?" Yeah, so CCIV was another one that was crazy. They're merging with Lucid Motors, big valuation. There was a lot of issues with Lucid Motors, not hitting their production targets and things like that, and extending their deadlines. So that's another one that's trading pretty low compared to where it was. Hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say for a SPAC, it is not trading low at all, right? We're
No.
at $27 right
Yep.
now, but it had been up to what was it, about $60? And I think
Yeah.
that was even before they officially confirmed with Lucid. It was on the rumors of Lucid,
Yep.
and everyone just went nuts about it. So I
Yep.
think it's good that it's calmed down a little bit. Um, but yeah, that one, I remember watching it shoot up and I was like, this is terrifying. Like nothing's even confirmed yet. But
Yeah, I bought that at 15, and I was kind of waiting for it to run up, thinking it was going to go crazy. It did. I sold at 45, and
nice.
I got beat up for it in my comments. It's like you're costing people money. I was like, no, I made a lot of money,
Right?
and
Like
and
once
now
your
it's
stock
yeah,
over doubles, like
yeah,
take some money out.
yeah, it's
But
crazy.
yeah, maybe at this prices now that it's kind of settled down, definitely watch for a good point to get in. Um, do you know when the merger's actually completing though? I feel like this one's been pending for a very long time.
It said second half of 2021, so it could be in any time now between now and December. So
Sure. So just historically, like we just said, with a lot of SPACs, once that merger is completed, you see a lot of the attention maybe die down and that price come down. So it'll be interesting to see if this follows that pattern.
well, I'm seeing a lot of thank you guys in the comments, and we have 63 people watching, which is
Oh
awesome. I
my goodness.
appreciate all of you guys tuning in for our first live, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. There'll be more in the future. Next week is a bit of a weird week. I'm traveling. I'll still be posting videos, but just stock market related videos, and then we're off Monday
Yes.
for July 4th because the markets are closed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate all you guys tuning in. It was a lot of fun answering some of your questions.
Definitely. And like I said, like next week, I think we'll be off and everything, but then we'll be back at it. And I think we'll keep doing them live. I like having the comments and the interaction and
Yeah,
stuff. So make this a regular thing moving forward after that.
yeah, it was fun. All
All
right,
right.
guys,
Well,
take care.
have a great weekend, everyone.